And as a big part of that conversation is the hammer blow of last night when Ryan Daniels reported on Channel 7 in Perth that Lachie Neale will seek a return home. He will seek to be traded. So that prompted the urgent meeting today. The exit meeting had a bit more around it by the time that he got into the club. And the Lions' holding statement is that there was no formal request, but there was also no comfort out of this meeting. So Greg Swan, Danny Daly and Chris Fagan conducted the meeting. There is an expressed desire around the family front. Neale and wife Jules are expecting their first child, and he has confirmed the couple are weighing up where they would like to raise their family. He did not request a trade, but has asked for some time to have further discussions with his wife and family.
It's an interesting thing to report.
If you're a Lions fan at home, you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop now.
Yes, and I would suspect that they don't need much more time to talk. They've probably spoken about it a lot as a family and what they want to do. And the problem for Brisbane is that the midfield's one of their issues. They lack depth in the midfield. They lack outside run and spread in the midfield. So they're losing one of their best inside mid. That leaves a hole as well. So they've got more problems there. It's a matter of what compensation will they get for it. That becomes a really key point now. And what can they do with that compensation? What will Freo, if he goes back to Freo, what are they going to offer? What can they get? And what can they use if it's draft picks? What can they put those draft picks towards?
The intersection of footy and family. So our family lives around the country are totally different to how we would have envisaged them with the travel restrictions that are in place, and there are no guarantees around borders and the like. We're all crossing our fingers for 80% vaccination and what it might mean. So we're not in a position to judge the family side of things, other than I think a broad understanding is there's a whole lot of parents and kids who are working through scenarios they didn't expect to. The business of footy. So he comes across to the Lions on a 5-year contract. They trade in good faith for him. He's been everything that they asked him to be. 2 best and fairest, a Brownlow medal. But he's only 3 years into his 5. Is it poor form to come up short of that arrangement?
Well, I think we've become a lot better at understanding the balance of football and family life and mental health and all those sorts of things. And as clubs, I think we're more accommodating about what the players need instead of just saying, hey, you're contracted, you'll play for us. So the only thing I would say out of that is if he's to go back, well, then Brisbane need to be compensated. And it needs to be sort of in line with, because they gave up an arm and a leg to get him.
They did. They traded in really good faith, 6 and 22, and there was a lot of manoeuvring around that.
So they've got to get the arm or the leg back, one of the two. Not all of it, but they've got to get, they've got to get half of it back.
So they have to get 2 first-round picks for him, and they can't move down from 6. So 6 was the starting point. And we presume if Chera does end up at Carlton, then Freo are able to wield 6, so that's part of it. I feel like the second pick needs to be in the first round. It'll be a double-figure pick. But
if it's top 20, I think
he goes back as a better asset than he came across as.
He's still only 28, so he's got plenty of good football left in him. He's proven very durable up until this year, where he's had a few issues, but nothing that serious that a good pre-season won't fix. So, gee, he'll be a good pickup for Freo, won't he, when he goes back there?
So it's a really interesting question. Is he what Freo need?
Yeah, well, I think so, because you've also, at some stage, and it's not going to happen right now, but David Mundy's going to tip out at the top end, isn't he? So you get an experienced inside mid like Neale that comes in. Now, he's not quite Adam Chera or what he's going to be for 10 years, but it's a good start. I mean, you get a quality player like that in. They've got some good young players coming through the Dockers, so there's a lot to like about them. I still don't think that list is where it needs to be, but it's heading in the right direction, and if they pick up a couple of key pieces of the puzzle, there's no reason why the Dockers can't play finals next year.
If you're the Lions and you do end up with 4 first-round picks, so they've got 14 and 18, 6, and let's say they do get a second first-rounder out of Fremantle, what do you do? How many picks do you use? Do you look to replace? So Luke Parker is a free agent, so he is gettable. There's the suspicion that Tom Mitchell's gettable under the right circumstance. Do you look to replace the experienced player that Neale is, as well as using your picks, or do you grab a glut of picks in one draft?
I don't think one player is going to get you where you need to get, but I think if you get 4 good, young, talented players into the club, that's going to keep you where you are at the moment, and if they turn out to be really good players, you might actually take the next step. So I'd really like to see them attack the draft. And I don't care if people say it's not the draft of last year or the year before. We hear that every year, Jared. I'm a little bit sick of hearing that. There are good players there. You get 4 first-rounders into the club, gee, that sets you up well for the next 5 or 10 years.
Okay, that strategy piece is fascinating, and the whole trade period now enlivens because there will be clubs sitting around going, okay, so if these picks are in play, how do we get a look at some of those picks?